YOLO, my fellow human beings, and welcome to episode 155 of the Best Plus Life. I'm your best host, Kristen, and today's topic is, hey, Gingy, want to make some bread? Before we get started, I want to thank you all for watching. Please continue to watch, comment, share, like, subscribe, ring that bell, and please pass them on to anyone you think they would help. With that being said, here's our list of things to do today. Now, I have forgoed saying the daily mantras during the video, but I do like to refresh your memory that they are posted onto my story on Facebook and Instagram only. I've been trying to be better at posting them to TikTok, and I keep forgetting about Twitter, so no offense, Twitter. Anyway, follow me on Facebook at Kristen Haas, KristinHass, and on Instagram at The Best Plus Life. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at The Best Plus Life with the I replaced by a 1, and you can also follow me on TikTok also at The Best Plus Life. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that being said, we are going to talk about self-love today because we're continuing the self-care challenge. How's everybody doing with that? I'm really struggling because it's so freaking cold. We got a good amount of snow the last couple days, and so it's been frigid and really hard to stay warm, and the bones just hurt. So I have been doing Epsom baths because those are a godsend. And then we're going to make, if you couldn't guess it, gingerbread. Because we're approaching that holiday season, and what is better? I know there's a lot of really good cookies out there, don't get me wrong. But I love the fun of decorating gingerbread cookies. So I am making the dough now. It needs to refrigerate it for at least an hour. And then I have Peyton and a few of her friends to come over later, and we're going to decorate. So I'm not sure how that's going to go, if we're going to actually video, if we're just going to take some still photos and hopefully add them to the video. We'll see how it goes. We'll play it by ear. Okay, so I broke out the big mixer today. I haven't used her in a while. I've been a little flustered by her performance as of late. And so, you know, the creamy of the sugar and the butter is always suctioned to the bottom of the bowl. I tried other bowls. I can't seem to master that. So I am a collector of fun gadgets, and I love to go to Goodwill, and I always find fun bakery and cooking items that I had in my life maybe when I was younger, or I knew about but never seen them out in the wild kind of thing. But I got one of these at Goodwill. And I remember somebody in my life when I was younger having one of these. We might even had one when I was a kid. But it's essentially supposed to be like an egg beater. But I thought it would be fun to try it just to see if we can get some fluffiness out without making, I don't know how much of a noise it'll make, but we'll see. So we're going to make gingerbread, and then we're going to move over to that bowl there. I'm not preheating yet because we're not going to bake it till later this evening. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear, guys, and I hope this video turns out really fun and different because I'm adding some guests. So that will be a fun time. I make gingerbread. I've made gingerbread for the last, I don't know, this is the 4th year in a row now, I think. It became a tradition when I started babysitting my first 2 babies. Well, not my first 2. My first outside my family, a brother and sister. And they've been on my show a couple times, and I started that tradition with them, and now I am trying to continue it because I also have my daughter's friends come over, and they help decorate, and that has been a fun project. I love seeing those girls, and I look forward to it. So, and they're so fun. They decorate so crazy, and it's so just to catch up. I love catching up with them. So anyway, I'm going to give you the recipe right now. It's the best ever gingerbread cookies. Now, what I was leaning to is this is my 4th year, maybe my 5th year. I might have lost track somewhere in there. But every year I try to make a different recipe. So this one is a little bit different in that I don't have to refrigerate it for a really long time. It said an hour at the least. I did actually have one that was not, you didn't have to refrigerate at all, but there was a lot more ingredients and I didn't want to get into all that depth. So for this one, they're called the Best Ever Gingerbread Cookies. And I'm not making a big amount. Last couple years, I've made huge amounts. And then they just sit around and go bad. So this one only uses 3.5 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of ginger, 1.5 teaspoons cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 cup of butter, which is 1 stick, 3/4 cup sugar, 1 egg, 3/4 cup molasses, and 2 teaspoons of grated orange zest. Now, I was going to skip that step because I'm like, I don't even have an orange. I don't have an orange. But then I remembered somebody bought oranges. So I got zest. I have a little bit. I don't know if it's 2 teaspoons worth, but whatever it is, we're going to put it in there. I find sometimes gingerbread, depending on how much ginger and how much, excuse me, molasses is in the recipe, I find it has a perfumey flavor. And I'm hoping this orange zest will kind of alleviate some of those strong flavors. It'll give it a citrusy, kind of lighter note. Sorry, I had a tickle in my throat. Okay, so in the first bowl, in our little medium bowl here, they want us to combine the flour, which is, this is our 3.5 cups, our flour, ginger, baking soda, cinnamon, cloves, and salt. So that's what's in these 2 containers. Ta-da. All right. And I'm not going to use the little gadget because I just can see the flour just flying everywhere if I did that. My bowl's not very big. So we're just going to whisk these all together. The smell of the holidays. Am I right? So during the holidays, we all know it gets crazy busy and we forget about ourselves a lot because we're Christmas shopping or whatever shopping you do for the holiday season. I'm not going to put Christmas tag on it per se because we all have busy times during the holidays, whether they be good busy or bad busy. It is a way to stop yourself from essentially forgetting about yourself, which happens a lot, especially for women. I find it's, we do a lot of the running around for the family, so it is kind of a time for us to take better care of ourselves. Okay, and I'm gonna get that in a little bit, but I'm gonna be making a little bit of noise here, and I really honestly don't know how much noise this little gadget's gonna make. Metal on metal, it's gonna be great. Okay. So this is 1 stick of butter. I always use salted. I know Martha's probably rolling over in her bed right now because I'm using salted. But I don't use unsalted for anything. So I'm probably the bad guy. But use unsalted, especially if you have, you know, high blood pressure or things where salt would be more of a factor in your baking, where you can control it a little bit better. I like the salt factor a little bit. I like that I can pick it up in the butter and also just in the recipe. So here's our, what was this? Eek! I can't find out. 3/4 cup of sugar in the bowl. All right, so now we're supposed to, you know, whip this till it's fluffy with our mixer. But let's see what kind of progress we can make just by getting it going in here first with this little gadget. Not going great so far. I need my bowl to spin. Wouldn't that be great if my bowl could spin? Don't think this is going to work out very well, guys. It is literally just an egg beater, but hey, it is breaking it. I know what my main problem is. My bowl keeps moving. All right. So I am not one to like assume I know things about stuff, if that makes much sense. And my phone is going crazy. Okay, so I decided to look up what is self-love, because that is a derivative, I feel, of self-care. So the practice of treating yourself with kindness, compassion, and respect, similar to how you would treat a loved one. It involves accepting your worth, supporting your physical and emotional needs, and prioritizing your well-being, which includes setting boundaries and fostering positive self-talk, which we talked about last time. It's acknowledge and accept yourself fully, including your flaws and insecurities, not putting yourself down using those flaws and insecurities, which is what I do. Recognize that you are worthy simply for existing. Kindness and compassion. Treat yourself with the same way you think about how you treat other people. You always think, oh my gosh, I need to do something special for someone, or, but you don't ever say that to yourself, really. Treat yourself with the same understanding and tenderness you would offer someone you care about, especially during difficult times. Respect for your needs. Prioritize your physical, emotional, and psychological needs, and take action to support your own well-being. Setting boundaries. Establish clear boundaries to protect your well-being and avoid sacrificing your needs to please others. Positive self-talk. We talked about this last time. Consciously change negative self-criticism to more positive and supportive internal dialogue. It doesn't mean to indulge yourself. This is what it's saying is also part of it. Or, eating junk food because that makes you feel better. That's not what it means. These are temporary fixes. It is not the same as selfishness or narcissism. Instead, it is a necessary foundation for a healthy life. Self-love is a journey, not a destination. It can involve both comfortable and uncomfortable processes. Oh, believe me, uncomfortable is not even the right word. And then celebrate small wins and progress along the way. It's okay to be proud of yourself. You don't have to be full of yourself. There's a difference. And a lot of people just look at it one way, and they really don't understand that what you're doing is giving yourself the love and respect that you might not have gotten from, other areas in your life. Now, if this butter, once this butter gets a little bit more incorporated, I think it'll be a lot easier, and I'll get my bowl wants to fall over now. It doesn't like this pad. Oh, come on, guys. I'm trying to change things up and make things work better. All right, here we go. So talk to me and tell me what you think about those concepts. I know a lot of people go around going, I just do stuff for other people, and I don't expect anything in return. And honestly, that is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I don't expect anything in return. I'm saying to you, what I do stuff for other people, it is because I love and care about them, and I want them to feel loved and supported. And I should feel and do the same thing for myself. I should. But it also feels indulgent and wackadoodle and why can't I get this, concept down for myself? Why do I always feel guilt? Because there's the factor too, right? Because then people look at you and go, oh, look at her. She stays at home. I work hard. I work very hard. And while I am not one to complain, because I like the hard work, it makes me feel like I'm existing and doing things to help other people as well as myself, because whether people believe it or not, I find work, especially if I'm able to help other people, so rewarding. And I think people look at me like I'm crazy in a sense, because I'm like, people go, well, why don't you do that for yourself? But in a sense, I am doing it for myself, because it does make me feel good. It does make me feel happy and comfortable and in my wheelhouse, so to speak. And granted, people look at that as people pleasing too, and that's kind of what I have done my whole life. But I I know where to draw the line, and I know when I'm being pushed around. You know, this is not working any better than the mixer would. It's just still sticking to the bottom. I just don't really understand why I can't get this going better. I mean, it isn't sticking to the sides as much as it would as if I were, you know, mixing it with the actual mixer. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to get this all kind of whip-de-dooed into these soft, fluffy peaks or whatever they expect to happen, as well as get this off my, because I don't want to lose out on any of my stuff. Let's see if they'll fly off when will work. A little bit. Just a little bit at the bottom. Okay. So, quick pause while I get this all whipped up. And that means I am going to whip it on the actual mixer. So, it might be a few more minutes than normal. Okay? I'll see you in a few. Hey guys, I'm back. All right. So, while I was off camera, I whipped this by hand, which I feel really muscular now. And I also added the egg. So, that is already in there. We're going to go back. Put this back in here now that we're a little fluffy. I'm not saying we're light and fluffy, but we're fluffier than we were. Okay, and then, so after the egg, we're mixing until combined, which I did with my hands, and then we're gonna blend in the molasses and the zest. So remember, this is 3/4 of a cup of molasses, and I hope this trick worked because I did spray my measuring cup to see that it didn't, all right, it says blend in, but it doesn't really say how. So I'm going to start this, actually. Maybe. I'm kind of afraid. All right, let's do resume. Oh, I actually want to resume, but I also want to turn it down. There we go. We're just doing a light blending. So we're pouring in our molasses. Oh, and I got it all over the mixer. All right. So I want that to go a little faster, I think. All right. Quit dripping. And you don't want to use the black strap molasses for this because that's really potent. All right. Let me scrape this down real quick now that I got it on the mixer. All right. Let's speed this up for just a second or so. It looks like peanut butter. Good thing it isn't. Okay. So, since I got the molasses pretty much everywhere, because it said to blend in, which didn't really give me much direction. So what I'm going to do, since I have a little bit left, that's not all over. Okay, yeah, I got it all up here. Okay. All right. And now we're going to just pour this last little bit in here. Maybe. Okay, here we go. Actually didn't work too bad. I don't know if that's because I sprayed it or not, but I'll take that win. Speaking of wins, let me tell you about the last meal we made on here. Let me just run this for a quick second first. All right. As I've made enough of a mess, let me resume. And yeah, I really know how to do it, don't I? There we go. Take that off. Okay, that seems pretty well blended. And then I'm going to, excuse my mess, scrape down the sides again, and we're going to add our zest. I'll tell you what about molasses. I have a love-hate relationship. I don't like the texture when I'm baking with it, but it sure is good and stuff. It's like honey, you know, you try to pour out honey or maple syrup, and while they're amazingly delicious additives to your cookies or whatever, here's our somewhat 2 teaspoons of orange zest. I'm not sure. I didn't really measure it, but I told her that would probably be enough, considering I wasn't even going to add it in the first place. So any little bit helps. Okay. And then let me get that little bit off of there. Let me try it. Oh, I got a good molassesy part. Wow. All right. Let's whip this up for a little bit. I probably should have scraped down the sides a little better. Oh, I like that orange in there. All right. We're going to be starting to add the flour now, so I just want to make sure I get all the stuff off of here. Get it blended better. Because there is a lot of molasses stuck to the actual paddle here. Yeah, okay. We'll scrape that down. We'll get it all ready for the flour part. Now, when you add the flour is when you want to make sure you're not over mixing, because you don't want to make them, you know, tough. All right, let's do one more. God, I am getting this stuff literally everywhere. All right. Oh, actually, let me turn this down a little bit now that we're going to be adding flour. Okay. And I like to add the flour, especially in such a tall bowl. I'm on a mission. If any of you has a Cuisinart mixer and has found replacement bowls, I went on the Cuisinart thing, but I'm worried that because my mixer's a different size that it's not, doesn't have another bowl. Oh my gosh. I am making a tremendous mess. Okay. I'm done doing that now. So after we've added that, oh, it says beat on medium speed until well combined. Okay. Hold on, let me get... I was thinking I was adding more stuff now. Good Lord. I am truly making a mess. All right, so we're going to go on medium speed. Okay. So there you go. Let me get rid of this mess because I don't think I'm going to need any more of this. And I'm going to wipe off my spatula while I'm at it. My fancy dancy best blessed life spatula. Maybe I'll get it off. So, back to self-love, guys. My sign went off. What do you think? Tell me your thoughts. Give me your opinions. Comment in the section for this video. Let me know how you feel about taking care of yourself. Are you someone that always has? And this is totally preposterous that we're even talking about this? Because you always knew that you were just as important as everybody else? That's a wonderful gift to have. Oh, it's fluffing up real nice. Let me give it one more second here. I'm really high. So pretty. All right, now let's turn it down really low. Okay, so now what we're going to do is well combined. We need to scrape our bowl, which I'm really sad about because I just cleaned off my spatula. Can you guys truly tell that the recipes I make for you, I make for the very first time. Now, yes, I have made gingerbread before, but I've never made this gingerbread before. So I want you to understand that I am showing you what it feels like to make this recipe for the first time. And honestly, make mistakes and, you know, have fun while you're doing it. Make sure you're appreciating your efforts, because that's all part of self-love, correct? Is appreciating what you do for other people and how you make an impact. Yes, I have my back to you, sorry. I was trying to scrape and be quick, and that never happened, so I don't know why it would start now. Okay. Do I think I'm well mixed? I don't know. I have more of it on my hands than I do the rest of everything. So knowing how all that works and appreciating what you can do for yourself, what would be the first step you'd make? On this journey of self-discovery, I guess, is even more of a challenge, because a lot of times we don't want to look at ourselves too closely, you know? All right, so we are going to add our first round of flour, correct? Yes, and slowly add in dry ingredients. Mix just till combined, because this is where it starts to get, like I said, a little crazy if you don't, you know. Oh, that smell. Cinnamon. Cloves. I've never made a gingerbread house. I've helped people make gingerbread houses. I don't know, I find them a little frustrating. But I know there's a little bit of different process for that than there is to make just gingerbread, because you got to make it stiffer. So if you've ever made a gingerbread house or ornaments, I know people do ornaments, let me know. What is the difference in the recipe? I know there's got to be a little bit more flour, I'm guessing, and maybe no butter. Maybe it's just a flour recipe. I've never looked it up. Can you tell? All right, so you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to put you on pause again, because we already know what I'm doing here, right? We've all done this step before. I'm going to put you on pause, and I'll be back. Hey, guys, I'm back. I'm done mixing the flour. I'm probably going to say I don't have enough dough now, because that's how much came out. I was going to put it in two separate, like, little packets here, because they want us to wrap it in saran wrap. I use press and seal, so do what you will. But they said flour the surface first, but if you're putting it on the plastic, wow, this stuff is gummy. If you're putting it on the plastic wrap and then mushing it down with the plastic wrap, wow, this stuff is crazy. Okay. You shouldn't need any extra flour. I wish I had spatulas that would get it. Literally is just, oh my gosh. Unbelievable. And I think my other one is too flimsy. Not because it's bad, but because it's more of a, I need this one to be sturdier, and it's kind of just bending at the will of the gingerbread. I bet you didn't know gingerbread had its own will, huh? Literally just rolling on itself. All right, but you get the gist, right? So I'm going to press it down, I'm going to flap it in, right? I'm going to press it down, and we're going to get it all cooled off before it's time to decorate. And I think that's where we're at, guys. Sorry I made such a mess. You probably didn't even get to see most of it. Oh my gosh. It's literally, look at this bowl. There's so much of it just stuck in there. I think I might just have to call it a day, though. You know what I mean? I only got so much oomph left in my muscles. especially since this really doesn't want to cooperate. I guess it is what it is, guys. Let me tell you, this is really good. I enjoy the flavor. The orange does kind of disappear, so I was kind of disheartened by that, but tastes like gingerbread. So spicy. I love them right after they're baked while they're still warm. Put a little bit of the... Now, I just use decorating frosting I have that I bought. I might consider making just a little bit of royal icing. I haven't really decided yet. I'll keep you posted on that front. We don't usually fill in the whole cookie, so I don't feel like I need a big batch of frosting. All right, I'll rinse that out later. But it is an option if you're going to decorate a ton of them to probably just make a big batch of it. All right, so then what I do is I just take the, and I put the sticky side on the inside because you're going to roll it on itself, essentially. So I usually just flatten it out like that, no flour required, right? So we're not making a mess. That's the one thing I hate about rolled out cookies, is that they are such a mess. Does it have to be beautiful? Nope, we're just trying to refrigerate it. Oh, now the rest of the instructions goes as follows, in case I just do still photos of our endeavor later. But what happens is you refrigerate this for at least an hour, okay? And then you're gonna preheat to 350, and you are going to, let me put this in the fridge, and you're going to line baking sheets. You can either line it with parchment paper, or if you have, like I have, the silicone mats, you can use those as well. They work really great, especially when you're doing bunches and bunches of them, because parchment paper doesn't always last very long. And then lost my place. You're going to roll the dough on a floured surface, 1/4 of an inch thick, cut dough into shapes and place on sheets. Freeze cookies for 5 to 10 minutes. And I think this prevents it from spreading out too much and running into the other cookies. And then after you freeze it for the 5 to 10 minutes, you bake for 9 to 11 and then remove and put on a cooling rack. And then you decorate. And then you eat them. Voila. I know, right? Now, obviously, if you're not a huge gingerbread fan, there's always a yummy sugar cookie that you can cut into different shapes for the holiday season. There's a lot of different cookies you can cut out. You don't have to cut them out at all. But you could decorate them Christmassy or put sprinkles inside. You know, different variations like that there. Because like I said, I do this once a year. I hate rolling out cookies. I find it annoying. And I never get it perfectly right. And I always feel like I overflour. And I could go on and on and on and on and on. You know how that goes. But, okay, I wanted to talk. I know I put you on hold, but I wanted to talk to you real quick about the 2 things I made last episode, which were the Mexican chicken in the crock pot and the apple cobbler enchiladas, which the recipe was originally for peach cobbler enchiladas. Okay, so let me start out by saying I'm really super excited that I potentially have unlocked the secret to cooking poultry in the slow cooker. One, I don't believe it's one that you can turn on before you go to work and come back and it's gonna not be dry. I don't visualize that happening, even on low. Unless you're cooking a whole bird, which I have done, and then I felt like it didn't get cooked at all. So you got to determine what you're comfortable with and how dry of a texture you're willing to deal with. Even with the sauciness of this chicken, I have made chicken similar to this before. It was called salsa chicken. Very, very similar. And ended up dry as dry can be. So the recipe for the chicken called for it to be cooked on high for 2 to 4 hours or on low for 4 to 5 or 4 to 6 or somewhere in that crazy range. Let me tell you, if you cooked that on high for 2 to 4 or on low for 4 to 6 or whatever, you would have hockey pucks. Be dry, grainy, like milly. It would just sawdust in your mouth. So what I did was I followed the 2 to 4 hours, but on low. So I took the high baking temperature and I turned that into the low baking temperature, and I cooked that for 2 to 3, I think I might have even done 3 hours. Now you remember I added rice in the bottom as well as salsa. I wanted to add black beans, but I forgot. So you'd have that kind of, you know, Santa Fe style chicken rice in the bottom. And let me tell you, with that added rice, I feel like that protected the chicken from resting solely on the bottom of the crock pot, which is, I feel, another factor into why things get dried out so quickly. It was so moist. It was so delicious. It was so flavorful. And I'm so glad I listened to my own brain and decided to shuck the times out, in a sense, or the temperature. I don't know how you want to look at it. I took the time and I switched the temperature from high to low. So if you're following that recipe and you're using chicken breast especially, leave them whole. Rest them on a bed of rice. I did chicken broth and rice. I did 2 cups rice, 2 cups chicken broth. I did salsa, and I can't remember what the other thing was. And then, of course, the seasonings, which my chicken was already seasoned, so I did most of the seasoning for the rice. It was so good. So that combined with the chicken not, you know, resting in a overly heated spot, delicious. And I will do that again. I will make that again. And secondly, the apple pie enchiladas, there's just no words. Making your own pie filling, for one thing, is amazing. And it's super cheap if you already have the fruit. And it was just lovely. The sweetened condensed milk added this little bit of creamy flavor, texture, and the cobbler. Just try them. And you can, like I said, you can put pretty much any fruit you want in there. I would stick, like, for the winter months, obviously, do apple, pumpkin maybe would be really delicious, but things of that nature. Give it a try. The recipes are linked in the description of the last episode. Give this gingerbread recipe a try, especially if you love gingerbread or you want to give gingerbread as gifts. It's super quick to at least make it. It takes a little bit longer to decorate, but that's the fun part. I get to hang out with some sweet girls, and we're going to have a great time, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a little bit of video. But I'm going to end it like I normally end it if I were to, you know, end the whole video, which is to say, I think that about wraps it up. I want to thank you all for watching. Please subscribe. And with that, I hope you have a good day. Go do great things. Talk to yourself. Love yourself. Care for yourself. Be your best self. And please live your best blessed life. Thanks for watching.